Hey, it's Kyle here, and today I'll be reviewing The Last Castle by Denise Kiernan. This book is about the Biltmore house, which is in Asheville, North Carolina. If you're not familiar with that, it's this huge house, actually the biggest house built in America by George Vanderbilt, basically the third generation of the Vanderbilt family after they got super wealthy building railroads in America. It's a beautiful house. If you've never heard of it, I'd encourage you actually to do a quick Google search and just look at the images of it to kind of give you an idea of what house I'm talking about in this book. Before I delve into my full-on review, I did want to do a quick little pitch for the channel, I guess you say. I really appreciate everybody that watches this, subscribers. If you are watching this video and you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please subscribe. I really appreciate the support. And when that little plug out of the way, I'll get into my review of the book. So for those that don't know, I live in Georgia, Metro Atlanta, so not too far away from Asheville. So I grew up hearing a lot about this house. A lot of people that live in this part of Georgia go to the Biltmore for trips, because now it's open to the public. It's kind of like a vacation destination, place where you can go do tours and stuff like that. They have like hotels on site, wineries, all sorts of stuff. It's a big destination to go visit. So I was very aware of the story about Biltmore. There was this huge mansion built by the Vanderbilt family that was now open to the public as like a tourist attraction. But I didn't really know much about the history of it. So I guess it's about a year ago, I got a gift card for a local bookstore, and I needed some new nonfiction books, so I was kind of browsing through this section. I saw this one, and I was like, well, I don't really know a ton about the history of the Biltmore, and let's check it out and see what I can learn. It is a really interesting read. The author, Denise Kiernan, goes into the reasoning why George Vanderbilt, who was in New York or from New York, decided to build his basically house out in the middle of nowhere in Asheville, North Carolina, because really at that time in the early 1900s when he was building this house, Asheville was even a kind of not a huge city in the South. So for the fact that this super rich guy in the North was building his huge mansion in Asheville was kind of weird. But then it goes into all the stuff that went into the building of the house, the actual architecture that went into it. Biltmore is very famous for the landscaping and the gardens around that. To show the amount of money and effort George Vanderbilt was putting to make sure his house was the perfect place, he hired the architect who built Central Park in New York to do the landscaping designs for the Biltmore, which is one reason why Biltmore has a beautiful gardens and landscaping all around the massive house. It goes into all the struggles that the family was going through as this was happening. George Vanderbilt actually gets married when this is happening. So, his new wife is a big character and what she brings to the Biltmore. How the people that lived in Asheville were impacted by this endeavor and how they benefited from it on the positive side and what some negative aspects it brought to it. How people in New York and the rest of the world viewed, this rich guy in America basically building the biggest house in the U.S. Then it kind of transitioned to, eventually George Vanderbilt dies, and the fate of the Biltmore house is unknown, because at that time in American history, a lot of these big mansions that were being built by these huge, rich titans, a lot of times after they passed away, the houses were too expensive to maintain, and they were basically either demolished or they were like instantly turned into hotels or hospitals or something like that. And the book really goes into a lot of interesting aspects of the Vanderbilt family's, specifically George's wife and his kids' efforts to kind of keep the Biltmore within the family and at the same time opened it up to the public. Which is one thing I actually did not know about the Biltmore. The Vanderbilt family actually still owns the Biltmore. It's still a privately owned house, even though nobody lives there anymore. It is just strictly a tourist attraction. But the Vanderbilt family actually still owns the company that owns the house, which is very interesting. So this book, I would kind of say, if you're thinking like, well, I'm not really interested in Kyle and learning like the history of a big house being built, and why should I care about this? I think this book is an excellent look at the kind of period of American history, the Gilded Age, where you have the rise of America as an economic superpower, and you have all these huge economically powerful individuals like the Rockefellers, Vanderbilts, Carnegie, stuff like that. And it kind of really this book gives you a good look at that society and what those individuals are like and what their lives were like. And it's kind of a very, I think, appropriate today's age where you have this new generation of insanely wealthy people, the kind of internet titans. They're becoming maybe the first generation to really have as much wealth as those early times did in the late 1800s, early 1900s. So kind of the idea of like, what's today's rich like, and maybe what's good about that and what's bad about that. But overall, I found it to be a very enjoyable book, very interesting. If you've ever been to the Biltmore, I would say you would definitely love this. And if you're kind of interested about a period of the Gilded Age in U.S. history, I think this is a book you'll really enjoy. So I definitely recommend The Last Castle by Denise Kiernan. I hope you enjoyed this review. As always, if you liked the video, please hit that like button. As I mentioned at the beginning, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. In the comment section below, maybe let me know if you've read any good books about the Gilded Age that you would recommend. And if you've ever been to the Biltmore, let me know. Even though I just mentioned the Biltmore a lot, I've actually never personally been there myself. I've been to Asheville, but I never actually, when I was there in Asheville, I didn't have a chance to go see the Biltmore myself. So definitely after reading this book, I certainly thought, once COVID is over and the world gets back to normal, I think I'm going to go to Biltmore because it makes me want to see it even more after reading this book. So anyway, again, hope you enjoyed the review. Happy reading, and I'll see you the next time.